Arizona Wildlife Views, brought to you by the sale of hunting and fishing licenses and the Heritage Fund, lottery dollars working for wildlife. Some projects made possible by the Sport Fish and Wildlife Restoration Fund.
Hi, I'm Jim Paxon. Welcome to another edition of Arizona Wildlife Views. Tonight you'll get a close-up look at a very rare wild cat. Then we'll show you where a family of Harris hawks has decided to call home. But first, we want to show you the extreme measures that our wildlife biologists go to help save our national symbol.
Up in a tall cottonwood tree along the banks of the Salt River, the seemingly unthinkable is about to happen.
Here it goes.
A huge bald eagle nest is purposely sent crashing to the ground. But to understand why the destruction of this nest was necessary for the survival of future eagles, you need to understand some of the history about what it takes to be a bald eagle living in the American Southwest. Bald eagles are more than just our national symbol. They are a testament to what it means to be a survivor. After being nearly wiped out by the ravages of DDT in the middle of the 20th century, bald eagles began to thrive again in North America, even one of the harshest environments there is, the Arizona desert.
But that's what makes them unique. They've adapted the Sonoran Desert ecosystem in these riverine type habitats. And for me, you know, there are a lot of eagles throughout various parts of the country, in Alaska and all, but they just handle themselves differently.
Bald eagles in Arizona face a myriad of challenges to survive and breed successfully. But no one imagined that a tiny bug living in a nesting tree would prove to be a deadly threat.
Yeah, today was a little bit of a new story for us. We had a nest where the nestlings in the last 2 years have all died from exposure to ticks. This last year when we were in the nest to ban the nestlings, we actually found where those ticks were laying eggs and growing their young.
Arizona game and fish biologists, along with other cooperating partners of the bald eagle management team, came back to this nest after the breeding season was over and the eagles were gone to treat the tick-infested branch. In order to reach the area with the bugs, Tuck has to climb the 40-foot cottonwood all the way up to the nest. But today he encounters more than ticks.
Wasp nest, right where I need to go. It seems like in the field, nothing ever goes smoothly. We got up to the nest, and just before I climbed up into the nest, there's a massive hornet's nest that exploded, and I had to get out of there quick.
A few weeks later, they try again, and Tuck climbs up the tree again, this time armed with wasp killer. Once the wasps were taken care of, working to eradicate the ticks can begin. Since this is the first time they've encountered a problem like this, it truly became a case of necessity being the mother of invention. Using products that have been approved for use around birds, the biologists send a variety of items, one at a time, up the big cottonwood to Tuck. He is going to try several methods to kill the ticks that include spraying, tenting the nest for fumigation, and squirting foam filler into the diseased branch. But will it work?
The success of today's work will really show next year, next May, when the young of the year are ready to fledge. So we've got a little bit of a waiting to find out if this was successful.
Arizona has 55 bald eagle breeding areas today, compared to a low of only 11 just 30 years ago. So every active nest is important to the recovery effort. Bald eagle management falls under the careful watch of Arizona Game and Fish and a coalition of 24 other partners, along with financial support from the Heritage Fund. 7 months have passed since the tree and nest were fumigated for ticks. In that time, the adult eagles have returned and successfully hatched 3 chicks. Now that the nestlings are about 6 weeks old, the biologists are back to put leg bands on the birds, something they do with all of the nests they can reach.
The difficult part of the whole banding project is getting to the nest itself. The eagles, unfortunately, don't pick the most accessible of locations. So we've got to assess each and every nest individually to find out if the tree's alive enough for us to get into the nest safely, or if the cliff is accessible enough for us to be able to rappel into it.
Meanwhile, back at the problem nest, Tuck makes his way to the 3 nestlings, who have to wonder what is going on, if nestlings in fact wonder about those kinds of things. The parents stay nearby, vocalizing their displeasure with this intruder in their midst. He carefully grabs each nestling, puts a hood over its eyes to calm it down, and booties over its talons, and places them in a special bag so they can be lowered to the team waiting on the ground. It will be 5 years before the young eagles develop their distinctive white head and tail feathers. At 6 weeks old, they simply look like gray and black balls of fluff.
We take a lot of measurements. We have to determine their sex. We have to determine their health, and we actually have to band them. So we put on these leg bands, basically like bracelets, and we put them around their legs, and they're fitted for an adult, so they'll stay on for the rest of their lives.
The bands that we put on these eagles don't cause a detriment to the birds. We do have to enter a nest and cause a disturbance for a couple hours, but that disturbance doesn't result in a failure. And that couple of hours of disturbance results in a lifetime of data that we're able to collect on these bald eagles.
These nestlings get an extra close examination for any ticks or parasites that may have survived the fumigation attempt and made their way onto the young birds. So far, so good.
I looked at them. They looked pretty good. I didn't find any ticks on them. They all looked pretty healthy. They were fat and happy, kind of, so to speak. They had a lot of food in them, and right on target for weight. So overall, looking pretty good. We spray. It's an over-the-counter bird spray, so it's safe for the birds. And yeah, the purpose is to help combat any ticks or other parasites that are on the birds.
While the birds are out of the nest, Tuck has his first chance to look around and see if he can find any surviving ticks. Once the banding is complete, the birds are put back in their bag and returned to the nest. As soon as they are safely back in, the team leaves quickly so the adult eagles can begin caring for the nestlings as soon as possible. While they didn't find any ticks on the young birds, they did find a few still in the tree, so they are cautiously optimistic these nestlings will make it. Unfortunately, that optimism didn't last very long.
At 6 weeks old, we banded these birds and everything looked good as far as the nestlings went. However, we did find a few ticks still living on the branch, so we were a little concerned about how that was going to turn out. About 3 weeks later, 2 of the nestlings ended up on the ground, and we took them into Liberty Wildlife. They were infested with ticks again this year. So as a result of that, we went ahead and climbed the nest and grabbed the 3rd nestling from the nest so we could go ahead and treat him for the tick infestation before he got any worse.
This is the 3rd chick from the orm nest. She was the 3rd one to come in. We had 2 others come in as well, and they have been coming in for the last 3 years in a row with a tick infestation. Most of the time it's been fatal. She's been the only one that's survived so far.
As the medical team at Liberty Wildlife works to keep number 3 alive, they are pleased with the progress this stoic little bird is making.
She's looking good, actually. We're pretty thrilled with the fact that she's now standing. She couldn't stand when she came in. We actually spent, with the times that they've all come in, usually they've died within, hours of arriving or a day or 2 later. And the paralysis tends to affect everything. It seems to just kind of go up their body. They start with limb paralysis, and then pretty soon the respiratory system seems to be affected, and they start having trouble breathing. And the best way to treat them is by picking the ticks off.
Even if number 3 recovers from her ordeal, there is still only a small window of opportunity to return her to the wild. She obviously can't be put back in her own nest, so they need to find another nest that still has one chick in it and try to foster her into that nest. But the time has almost run out for this year's nesting season. The biologists have been battling this tick-infested nest for 3 years, and finally they have some good news.
So today was our first chance since these ticks showed up to actually successfully save one of these nestlings and get it back out into the wild. What we did is once it got a clean bill of health, we found another nest with one other nestling and climbed up, put it in the nest tree, and got out of there real quick. And now the adult bald eagles are perched in the tree and checking out their new young.
As eagle biologists like to point out, eagles can't count. So when an adult leaves their nest with one chick in it and comes back to find 2, it just feeds them both. So the bald eagle foster parent program is usually very successful. After just a few short weeks of parental care, number 3 fledges from the foster nest to begin the life she was meant to live. But what will happen with the infected nest during the next breeding season? Eagles generally return to the same nest year after year, unaware of any danger their chicks might be facing.
The parents have used that same nest for over a decade now, so they're going to continue using that nest unless something changes. So we're going to have to figure out a way to either get the parents to move or to clean the nest itself.
The difficult decision was made to make the parents move. This will be the first time in Arizona an active bald eagle nest is going to be intentionally removed. So Tuck gears up for one last ascent up the cottonwood to the nest. Since none of the biologists have removed an eagle nest before, they are hoping some basic tools will allow them to pry it out of the tree.
I'm going to drop this rope. What I need is a piece of that baling wire, decent sized, and the jack, the truck jack.
It doesn't take long before the wood plank, baling wire, truck jack, and shake the branch as hard as you can nest removal tactics do the job. As the huge nest lies in ruins on the ground, we pick up our story from where we began. Everyone on the team is amazed at its sheer size. The best the biologists can figure is that the 20-year-old nest weighed over a ton.
I'm looking at an eagle's nest and how it's constructed, and then trying to search it to find these ticks that have been parasitizing the eagle fledglings. It's very unusual. We don't do things like this, pull down eagle nests every day, certainly. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then just also looking at what the eagles have been eating and what's in the nest, what they've been feeding the nestlings is very different. So it's exciting.
While Ann looks through the remains of the nest on the ground, Tuck continues to search for ticks in the tree. He had hoped to be able to cut off the infected limb, but there is no safe way to do it.
It circles back around. I can't cut it so it falls cleanly. It's gonna fall down to where I'm having to stand, or fall down onto the branch I'm standing on.
The rest of the team loads the remains of the massive nest into a truck, where it is hauled far away from the breeding area and burned.
I've been climbing that nest for 10 years now, so once that nest came down, it was really weird being in that tree and not having that huge nest right in front of me. Definitely a different feeling, definitely a new beginning for this breeding area.
Just 3 decades ago, the bald eagle was disappearing from Arizona skies. But 2011 was a record year for bald eagle breeding success in our state. At least 79 eggs were laid, 55 breeding areas were occupied, and 56 nestlings fledged. This success is due in no small part to the countless hours put in by dedicated biologists and volunteers who help these magnificent birds overcome obstacles, both large and small, to survive.
Don't worry, that nesting pair of bald eagles was not left homeless. Tuck and the crew built them a new nest in an uninfested tree that's already being put to good use this breeding season. Now we'll go down to Miller Canyon and the tale of a dog, a cat, and an Arizona game ranger.
The morning of February 8, 2011 was the kind of cool, clear winter day that draws people from all over the world to the Huachuca Mountains near Sierra Vista. Normally they can expect to enjoy mild weather and abundant local wildlife, but when Tom Beatty Jr.'s hound dog slipped out of the garden gate, the day began to get a whole lot more interesting.
Tom was working on the gate that the people drive up to the cabins because it wasn't closing. And so the dog got by him. She's a hound dog. Once she gets on the trail, she'll just keep going. And so I went over and worked in the garden, and for the next half an hour I could see Rose zigzagging up the ridge to the west that's south of us. And then you could tell when she trees something, her bay sounds different. And by that time, it took about a half an hour, and Tom called, and his mother answered, and then she got me, yelled out and said that Tom's got an ocelot. And then I called Brad about 2 minutes after that.
Yeah, Tom? Hey, this is Brad. Yeah, wow, pretty good news, huh? At about 10:30, my cell phone rang, and it was Tom Beatty, Sr. And, you know, Tom sort of surprised me that morning with that phone call to tell me that his son was up the canyon and possibly had an ocelot up a tree. Obviously, my first step was to clear out, get home, get the gear I needed, and to coordinate a hike in to try to determine what we had, you know, in Miller Canyon. You know, we get unusual calls as wildlife managers. You know, I could talk for an hour on that just in itself. However, you know, my relationship with the Beattys has went back, you know, nearly 18 years. They're stewards up here of the land. They live in a really unique spot, a corridor for a lot of animals, a lot of diversity here in Miller Canyon.
As Tom Sr. made his way up the rugged mountain terrain to see what his son's dog had treed, Brad and 2 other wildlife managers were hurrying to the scene.
The ocelot was treed approximately 10:30. That's when I received a call. The first people on scene was 2 of our wildlife managers. Brian Marshall and Aaron Miller were there about 15 minutes before I was. It was a pretty nasty hike once we came up and out of the main canyon bottom. You know, it was on a really steep slope, and like I said, it was an old burn that had been through there in years past, so it was very tangled, very difficult to maneuver through. And of course, I was carrying my hunting pack, which isn't the lightest pack, but you know, I'm glad I took all the precautions and took what I felt was necessary that morning, because once I got there, it all paid off to see you know, to see the ocelot in the tree.
And fortunately for the spectators, this ocelot picked a dead tree to hole up in, making this rare and beautiful cat easier to see and photograph.
It was a wowing experience, actually. You know, I think we all looked at each other, and you know, we had Googled on the cell phones on the way up some photographs to make sure that we looked for the characteristics, what we could visually see when we got there. And like I said, it was pretty immediate, the spotting and the barring on the tail, which is what I saw first, because I actually came in up above the cat in the tree, and I could see its hindquarters, its tail. Couldn't see any of its front shoulders or its head, but from what I saw was the barring on the tail, and it was pretty obvious what we had.
What they had was very unique. Ocelots are one of the rarest wild cats on this side of the world. They've been listed as protected under the Endangered Species Act since 1982, and in the last 50 years there have been only 3 confirmed sightings in Arizona.
The last known sighting was in 2009, and I believe it has been confirmed by a trail camera photograph just north of here, about 30 miles in the Whetstone Mountains. Highly unlikely it was the same animal. There's populations, I think, breeding populations fairly close to us to the south. There has been some photographs taken on trail cameras on ranches in Mexico, Sonora, Mexico specifically. We may be on the north extent of their home range. That may be one of the reasons why we've only been able to document adult males. They're traveling a little bit farther. You know, maybe they're dispersing, you know, young to middle-aged males that are going out, hitting some of the untraditional fringes of their home range or their occupied territories in areas that are suitable habitats like we have here in the Huachucas.
Ocelots are typically about twice the size of an average house cat and are solitary and nocturnal animals. They can be ferocious predators capable of taking down prey more than twice their size, but once safe in this tree, the ocelot seemed unimpressed with all the excitement going on around him.
Ocelot, as far as I'm concerned, acts like essentially a feral house cat. I've seen a lot of bobcats up a tree, and I've seen a lot of mountain lions up a tree, and both of those animals jump around a lot. And I've seen feral cats up a tree and house cats, and they just sit there. The house cats just sit there, and this ocelot just sat there, even though the wind was blowing up to 48 miles an hour that day. So it was a very calm cat, cool cat.
Even though the cat seemed calm, Brad and the others wanted to make their time there short so as not to stress the animal and to let it go on its way as soon as possible.
One of the first things I wanted to accomplish was getting in there and very, very efficiently and effectively document what we had in the tree. And that meant a couple of things: getting good quality photos and video of it from different angles, which we did, and to do it relatively quickly. It wasn't a hot day. It was a very typical late winter morning, afternoon, breezy conditions that day, some fairly heavy winds. The animal obviously wasn't exhausted from the brief chase that the dogs put it up to. We got in there at about 12:15, began our photographing, and we left the site at 1:15. We were in there exactly 1 hour. Now we went back up there a little bit later to GPS the site in general. The ocelot had apparently, got down and went on its way without any kind of concern.
Miller Canyon is home to a wide variety of wildlife and is considered a top birding location, so wildlife managers, like Brad, have seen just about everything there, from a big mama bear with her cubs to tiny hummingbirds, but what he encountered on February 8th may never happen again.
I know this, that I was fortunate enough to be one of the 4 guys from the Game and Fish that morning to see an ocelot, a live ocelot in the wild, photograph it and videotape it. It's never been done before. And I feel that it was a huge privilege of mine and probably a pinnacle of my career with the Game and Fish Department. It was a good day for me, and everybody was with me.
While ocelot sightings are pretty rare, Harris's hawks are pretty common in Arizona. Still, one couple was surprised to find a family of them moved in right next door.
When John James Audubon named this large raptor after his friend, financier, and ornithological companion Edward Harris, he had no idea that the Harris's hawk would become an object of fascination for Marna and Keith McClendon of North Scottsdale.
I think you thought this January?
We took some still pictures in January when we noticed there was just a single hawk that seemed to like sitting up on top of the saguaro.
Well, we just started realizing that now there are 2, and we started seeing them come in time and time again, and then we realized with the sticks in their beaks, and then it's, oh, they're building a nest. We have a nest. It's like, oh my goodness.
And the place they picked to build their nest was in a sturdy saguaro just outside of the McClendon's backyard. So armed with cameras and binoculars, they became urban wildlife watchers.
Well, it's like we were so much a part of the whole experience. So I think we started feeling responsible, just thrilled that that's our family back here. Somehow there was some pride in ownership, which was maybe bizarre, but that's how it felt. And of course, I don't think we saw all 3 right away. You'd see 1, 2, and then finally the 3rd. There was always the 3rd that seemed a little bit the real baby of the 3. But just their heads at first, their little yellow, white heads sticking up, And then we saw the feeding. I think that's the same day that we saw that they were being fed. And then we finally saw the heads stick up, accepting the food. He set the camera up in a great vantage point so that every morning And of course, this became more important later on, once they were born and they hatched, that we could just look in the morning, and of course, using the camera, we could see better. And then we just would record anytime anything of interest happened. We did a lot of recording.
Even though the McClendons were captivated by the hawks, they were careful not to disturb them, while still getting close enough to watch the goings-on.
Harris's hawks seem to be a little more adaptable in that respect. Red-tails will get that way too in some urban areas, but they seem to be a little more flighty than Harris's hawks. There is, of course, just like everything else, there is a limit how close you can get before they get a little disturbed. And a lot of times they'll let you know. They'll either fly off or they'll start giving you a little annoying call that they do that they'll tell you that you're into their space.
Well, when they seem to get upset, when you get closer in taking pictures, because when I go closer to the fence and get up on my little ladder, yes, somebody seems to vocalize that, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Call, call. But I think really they're very accepting and tolerant of us, recognizing that I'm constantly running around here, or you are, trying to get good pictures.
One of the things they found interesting while observing this family of resident hawks was there seemed to be more than 2 adults tending to the nestlings.
In Arizona, Harris's hawks are only social hawks, and you'll often find groups of 4 to 5 together, and a lot of times throughout the year, and they will often bring up a brood together.
I was in awe in terms of the process and just the majesty of the Harris hawks, and being able to see how the parents took care of their kids.
I can't be that articulate. I just think it was really cool. I mean, first-hand, close-up look at, from picking a place to nest, to build the nest, to having the babies and watching the babies leave. That's just cool.
I think what's exciting is, you just can't believe what they really look like until they get up on the nest and they start extending those wings. And of course, they're really just trying to feel what that's like. Yeah. And then they just take it and they extend more, and then they start moving faster. Then they started to hop, and then the hop got, over a course of time, even higher. And you could just see that, it's okay, babe, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And it's almost like they would try to encourage each other, or the one that did fledge first was out in a Palo Verde, very close to the saguaro, and clearly, from what we could tell, calling to the siblings. Nestmates, yeah. I can do it, you can do it.
When you think of wildlife viewing, you generally imagine someone taking a quiet walk in the great outdoors. But Marna and Keith got lucky. This time, the wildlife came to them.
I think it's cool. Just sit back, relax, watch the show, and learn as much as you can about what's going on.
Yeah, we couldn't have had it any better.
Well, that's our show for this week. For more information on Arizona Game and Fish, or anything you've seen in tonight's show, visit our website. I'm Jim Paxon with producers Lynde and Gary Schafer. We'll see you next week.